Welcome everyone to this week's meeting of the Bloomington Rotary Club Celebration of Service for August 3rd, 2021. I'm Sally Gaskell, your current president. Thank you all for being here. Please do remain on mute if you're not speaking. That will improve the sound quality for everybody. And I also learned recently that that improves the connectivity for everybody. Natalie, can you now please show the flag for a few moments of respectful silence? Thank you very much. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce our beloved Charlotte Sitlow to give the reflection.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to talk today about, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to talk today about Alice in Wonderland, which is where I am right now. And I think my parents must have gotten very tired of me because I was always asking questions, I believe. And you probably have gotten tired of me because I've also always asking questions. But I've always been a great admirer of Alice in Wonderland. And Alice, if you recall, woke up one day and saw a rabbit scurrying by and wondered what that rabbit was doing. And she followed the rabbit and found a rabbit hole, and she went down the rabbit hole, which many of us have done over the period of time. But what's that all about? When she got down, she saw all these curious things along the side of the wall at the rabbit hole as she went down, wondering about them. And then she landed plunk at the bottom and got up and wiped herself off and said, curious, curious and curiouser and curiouser. And then she saw a little door, and she tried that little door, and she went in through the door into the wonderful garden and saw a table with drink me on it, with a bottle with drink me on it, and a box that said eat me. And she drank some, and she ate some, and she grew, and she disappeared. But she was always learning something, curiouser and curiouser. And that's kind of the way I look at the world. I know there's so many things to know and so much to learn from everybody. And I've learned enough in my many years to know that for everything that you hear and see, there's a backstory, there's more to learn. And I have found that asking questions, it produces some good results sometimes. So I'm always curious to know what's more can I learn from whatever's happening. And one of the things that some good things have come of that have benefited all of us. Why can't we restore the courthouse? Why can't we? We have to figure that out before we can do it. Or why should we, in fact? And we have to figure that out. Is it worth it? And if it's worth it, we should do it. And those were questions that I had to get answered so I could get something done. And so we have a courthouse. And then there are other things. So suddenly I went over as a trustee to Indiana State and walked in, and they said, we have to tear down this old building. It was built in 1907. And I said, why? Why do we have to do that? And they said, because it's old. And I said, but I just spent 4 years saving a building that old. Why do we have to do this? And there was no good answer. And we saved it, and it's now a beautiful part of the campus. Or then another time I went to a trustees meeting, and they said, we have to tear down this WPA building that was the lab school over there. Why should we do that? Have we looked at it? No, we haven't even looked at it. We need to know more about it. So I had lots of questions, and we saved it, and it's now the School of Education. So, and then of course there was this PCB incinerator. Why should we do that? What's going to happen if we do that? Questions have to be answered before anything can happen. And we don't have it, and it's a good thing. I think we saved this community a great deal of pain and suffering because I asked too many questions, and so forth and so on. So I want to say that I think asking questions, because the world is curiouser and curiouser. I mean, right now we have questions that we have no answers to, but we have to keep asking why or what is it all about? And I encourage you to asking you questions. And I also warn you that I'm going to continue to do that because this is a wonderful land. And I feel like Alice, very happy to be in it. Thank you. Is that enough?
Thank you, Charlotte. Words to live by for sure. Never stop asking those questions.
Right.
We have a few guests who I spotted today. One is Liz Irwin, a former Rotarian, whom we think is going to be back with us due to her new work schedule. Wonderful to see you, Liz.
Thanks, it's great to see everyone.
We have John Bush, visiting Rotarian from Bedford, and Isadore Torrey. Great to see you all. Come back with us next week. There will be more about next week in just a moment. Thanks today to our producers, Michael Shermas, Aaron Davis, and Natalie Blaze. And our roundabout reporter for this week is Bill Perkins. Thank you, and thanks for the reflection. We have one notable birthday this week, Lauren Snyder, on August the 9th. We have a whole slew of member anniversaries this week. Lee Witt, 18 years with our club. Kate Cruikshank, 6 years. Bill Oates has been with our club for 3 and 30 as a Rotarian altogether. Glenn Steenberger, 8 years, 10 total as a Rotarian. Steve Engel, 9 years. And Megan Neese with the Community Foundation, 5 years with Bloomington Rotary. Thank you all for being with us for all those many years. It's a big week. So we do have several big announcements this week, and I'm going to start with a sad one. Bill Murphy just gave me the news at the top of the meeting that Barb Hillary, Rex's wife, died yesterday. And Bill, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, or maybe if Gus or Connie Chikalis have anything to add.
I don't know any of the details yet, but anyway, and it should be in the paper or something in the next day or two.
And this is Connie. Gus just, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I thought everything was going fine. It was mitral valve surgery, open heart. The surgery had been postponed a week, which of course was very stressful, but Gus just spoke with Rex. And of course, Rex can't even talk. He's devastated. Oh my gosh, this is so terrible.
Well, the Rotary family will, of course, respond as we always do. So thanks to everyone who shared information with us today, and we'll let you know as it happens about when services will be. Some better news, the Community Service Committee meets today. Sarah Laughlin is our chair. At 1:10, we'll be meeting. And this Saturday, August 7th, is the Teachers Warehouse Supply Drive. Thanks to everyone who signed up to volunteer for that. Here's a big announcement. So a few months ago, during a Bloomington Rotary board meeting, Lauren Snyder, whose birthday is this week, expressed interest in starting a Rotary book club. Now, I'm a big believer in using books to create connections and understanding. And so I am now pleased to announce the official start of the Bloomington Rotary Book Club. We're going to meet once a quarter, so nothing too arduous, beginning in October. And today, right after the meeting, you'll receive a survey from Natalie that asks you for your interest in joining, what dates, times of the week would be best for you, and also what kind of books would you like to read in our book group. We're open to fiction or nonfiction. We are going to start with a list that the Monroe County Public Library has. They actually have a book club kit and up to 10 books available from each title that we can check out. So thanks to Marilyn Wood for that tip off. This is a democracy, so we will choose the book that gets the most votes also in the survey. So look out for the survey right after today's meeting. And I hope that as many of you who are interested in sharing meaningful discussions about literature will choose to join us. And then the big news, of course, and this is no news, but just to reconfirm, next week, we will return to the Frangipani room for the first time in 18 long months. And I definitely cannot wait to see all of you. We're going to start the meeting a few minutes later than what we've been doing on Zoom. So I'll probably convene the meeting at about 12:15. And so I think for the Zoom participants, we'll ask you to chime in about 11:55 to go into breakout rooms. Now, our most important job next week is, of course, to keep you safe, because as we all know, unfortunately, our public health crisis is not over. So my understanding is that tomorrow, the Monroe County Health Department will announce a return to requiring masks indoors. This means that we will need to be masked during our meeting unless we're eating or drinking. So please remember to bring your mask next week. It's too bad, but it's definitely better than getting or spreading the virus. And fortunately, it does not look like we'll need to be distanced. So we'll be able to have our regular tables. Now, over the last few months, we've been negotiating the cost of meals with Imu Catering. We really tried to keep the price the same as a year and a half ago when we were last there, but I'm sorry to say that there will be a price increase. The cost of the buffet will now be $13.99 per person, which is a total of $15.11, including tax. So that's everything from soup to nuts, beverages, desserts, salad, entrees, sides, rolls, etc. You'll recall that over the last year, we changed our dues structure when we started meeting on Zoom. And so you will be charged only for the meals that you actually eat. Please let me know if you have any concerns or questions about this. If the price of meals keeps you away from attending in person, please let me know. But fortunately, we'll always have Zoom, as far as I know, technology permitting, as an alternate. I finally want to express my gratitude to the members of our hot new tech committee for going above and beyond the call of duty to figure out how to produce these new hybrid meetings. The club is going to be investing in some new hardware, and we have a whole new group of volunteers who will be needed every week to help produce the hybrid meeting. And hybrid, again, is both in person and on Zoom at the same time. So huge thanks to Alam Barker, Michael Sherman, and the other members of the tech committee who are doing the heavy lifting. With that, let's have some happy dollars. And I will start by saying that I'm really happy that I'm going to be able to see you all next week in person, masked or unmasked. And I am going to give $5 to Teachers Warehouse. Do we have other people who are happy about something?
I'm happy for two reasons. One is the excellent performance by Indiana University swimmers and divers. If they were a country, they would be currently 13th in the standing among countries. And the second reason is this is Ernie Pyle's birthday. And a bunch of us have gotten together and made a video about him and his life. And I'll post the link in the chat.
Wonderful.
I want to contribute $8 because this is the 8th birthday of my oldest grandchild, Cece. She and Ernie Pyle share a birthday.
Sarah.
I've got $38 because this is the world record for signing up for volunteers for the supply drive at Teachers Warehouse. There's obviously a pent-up demand to serve our community. We have, we filled all the slots 2 weeks ago. So we are absolutely thrilled by that. And we'll see all of you who signed up on Saturday morning. The weather's supposed to be great. There's radio coverage. Hope you hear something about it on the radio or read something about it in the paper. And if you're planning to shop, I hope you'll come to Kroger's South, Kroger's College Mall, or Staples and buy a box of crayons while you're there and put them in the bin outside.
Who else? Raj.
Well, I would like to thank the technology committee of working so hard to get us connected with the people in person. That is said, I'm very pleased. And due to the fact I just heard that technology equipment might be needed, I'll be more than happy to share that particular cost if you just let me know. In the meantime, I'll give $25 for the effort.
Raj, thank you so much for your generosity. Let's see, did I see Katie Beck's hand raised?
Everybody, nice to see you again. It's been a while. Two things to be happy about. One is I just took the Indiana bar exam last week and it's over and I survived. I'm really happy that it's over. And then the second is that my husband, who a lot of you have met, David, he's a musician. He is going to be with his band performing at Lotus Festival this year. So I wanted to make sure all of you knew that on September 25th, during the free community concert in Switchyard Park, you can see Matik Sando, his band, on the big stage in Switchyard Park. So I'm really excited about that and happy for him.
That's fantastic. Charlotte, you're muted.
Is that better?
We can hear you.
Okay, I want to add $25 match Raj's because it makes me happy that he can continue to help, to be with us. That's a wonderful thing. And his generosity and his with both his dollars and his spirit are really welcome.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Mhm.
Anybody else? I can't see you all at once, so please raise your hand if, or just start.
This is Glenn.
speaking. Yes.
Thank you for making me aware. I've been a Rotarian for a decade. Put me down for $10 a year, so $100, please.
Whoa. That's worth keeping those announcements going every week. Thank you. I know that Amy Osajima also has a guest today. And Amy, if you're there, can you introduce your guest?
Sure. I would like to introduce Asha Kirchoff, who is a member of the Wonder Lab board and is also works for Cook. She's an engineer, and she specifically came today to see Bill Brown's talk. So I'm really, and she's never been to Rotary before. This is her first experience, and I'm really happy to welcome her today.
Well, that's a terrific segue. Thank you, Amy. Welcome, Asha. And without further ado, Michael Shermis, would you please introduce today's speaker, Bill Brown?
Thank you, Sally. So architect Bill Brown started Griffey Creek Studio LLC in Bloomington in 2019 with a focus on designing energy positive residential and commercial architecture. He moved to Bloomington in 2009 to become the first director of sustainability at Indiana University. He was elected to the National Board of Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education in 2012 and helped create the university campus sustainability rating system used around the world today. He was a former chair of the Indiana chapter of the U.S. Green Building Council, a member of the American Institute of Architecture National Committee on the Environment, and a participant in the greening of the White House. His architectural portfolio includes dozens of public schools and libraries, including the first certified energy positive public library in America built in Christie, Indiana in 2009. Bill graduated from Indiana University in 1976 and Ball State University's College of Architecture and Planning in 1993. In addition to his architectural practice, Bill teaches energy and environmental design at the Indiana University J. Irwin Miller Architectural Program in Columbus, Indiana. He and his wife, Linda Brown, are restoring a farm on Bethel Lane, north of Bloomington. I had the opportunity a few years back to hear Bill talk to Green Drinks. I was fascinated, and I think you will B2. So now here's your opportunity. Take it away, Bill.
Thank you very much, Michael. I'm a little nervous because Connie Schlakas was talking about all the mistakes that speakers make. So I'll hopefully get some good comments from Connie after I'm through speaking, but appreciate the introduction. And thanks for all you do, Michael, to keep us all online in terms of technology. So I will share my screen. You're all able to see that all right? All right, that is the farm, which is the namesake, and there's a creek that cuts through it called Griffey Creek that fills Griffey Lake, and that's where the name comes from. I wanted to start with the story about this community, Christie, Indiana, population less than 500 people, and they were somehow successful in obtaining a state grant to do a feasibility study for a library. That's why I showed up here, and I asked them a few questions that you usually start with. Do you have any money? No. Do you have a building? Nope. Do you have land? No. And then the kicker was, do you have permission from the local library district to have a branch library? What do you think the answer was? No. So this feasibility study looked like it was going to be the shortest feasibility study in history, but you'll notice that they had a room full of people. And I would see at their community meetings over 100 people show up, and this is a community of less than 500 people. So what they had to work with was social capital. So if they have this much desire to have a library for their small community, you know, their kids were driving 15 miles each direction to get to a library for summer reading. They thought if their community is going to survive, they need to have amenities for young families. They need to keep their young families there. They need to educate their youth. And it would sure be great to have a library in their community. So the only problem is, how do you figure out how to do that when you have no money, no land, no building, and no permission from the library district? Well, the first idea was to talk to the local school corporation and see if they could use a part of the elementary school, the media center, maybe have a public entrance. And I spoke to the North Spencer Community School Board, and they said, no, there's too many security issues with that, but we like the idea, and we would provide this 1 acre site in green on this picture for a library if they could figure out how to do it. And this, by the way, was the town of Christie that was trying to pull this off. And so that's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle was, you know, what if you could do this in a way that the library district didn't have to pay for the building, that somehow we could have a building that didn't have utility costs? Would the library district be interested in having a branch library in Christie if that could be the case? And after some thought, they said, yes, if you can provide a building that we don't have to pay for and has no operating expenses or very little operating expense, then we'll go for it. So that's where the idea came from, to try to have an energy positive building, which is what we ultimately proposed. And they were able to do about $88,000 of local fundraising for a match for a IOCRA federal grant for public facilities. And that's where we went. The school corporation property backed up on the elementary school's outdoor learning lab, which you see here, which I thought was a great asset to the library. And after a few years of grant rounds, they were successful in obtaining their grant, their federal grant of $500,000 to build this facility. But you notice that they have an outdoor learning power pavilion, which backs up to the elementary school's outdoor learning lab. And that is not on the building. The building is in the shade of 100-year-old oak trees. So this is one thing, one of the secrets I'll talk to you about in a moment. So I went to their 10-year anniversary of their opening recently, and this was the scene. Notice that they're able to use their power pavilion for community events. And this is a very simple building. It has geothermal heating and cooling. It's very well insulated, has great windows, but it's a stick-built building that was built by a local contractor. And it's very simple construction, but very efficient and all electric. And we'll talk about some of the secrets of how do you do something that's affordable, but is positive energy. In this case, this was built for less than the cost of typical library construction in Indiana, including the solar power. So they were able to use capital to create an offset for their operating expenses. And this is their electric bill in July. And you'll notice that there are zeros in terms of amount due. Lots of zeros and credits on this. The meter is actually spinning backwards, and it's been that way for 10 years. They also received national recognition as the first certified energy positive library in America. And they also received this International Living Future Institute Award for net zero energy building. And there's sort of a local tourist attraction in Christie. People actually come from all over to see this building. So that worked out well. But again, you'll notice this is a very efficient building built at less than market rate. So energy positive is a building that produces more energy on site than it uses. A net zero energy building would be one that nets out at zero. And when we're looking at buildings and carbon, we're looking at operational carbon, which is operating, and embodied carbon, which is the carbon that goes into the materials that make up the building. So secret number one of the 7 secrets to affordable energy positive buildings is that making electricity from sunlight was rocket science 60 years ago, but now it's off the shelf technology at Lowe's. And chances are quite a few people in Rotary in Bloomington have solar, and you may belong to a church that has solar panels on it if you go to church in Bloomington, and you may work in a building with solar panels on it if you work in Bloomington. This is not rocket science, certainly in the Bloomington area. And if you're curious about your neighbor's solar, you want to go to the Siren website, which is an amazing resource. This used to be called the Southern Indiana Renewable Energy Network. Now they go by the name Siren, but they have a database that shows all of the installations of PV power across the state of Indiana. You can zoom in on your neighborhood and find your neighbor's house, and you can click on the little balloon, and it'll tell you all about that project. And then they also have information on all of the solar installers, so you can find out who did your neighbor's project and contact that contractor directly, or you can simply contact your neighbor and say, how's that working out for you? So secret number 2 is the building doesn't have to be exotic or expensive to be energy positive. In fact, the leaders in this movement around the country in terms of energy positive residential are Habitat for Humanity chapters around the country. And there are a number of zero energy homes that are Habitat homes, including here in Indiana. The lower right is Habitat for Humanity in St. Joseph County, Indiana. So again, this used to be exotic, used to be rocket science, and now it's come down to earth. This is a project I did for a doctor and his family in Bartholomew County. They wanted a country home on the old farm, and they wanted to be energy positive. This home was completed in 2020 for $160 a square foot, including the solar. And it's vertical bore geothermal heating and cooling, all electric, and it will be energy positive. I'm pretty confident we'll find out after they've had a full year's worth of electric bills, but so far so good. And one of the things that I like to do with buildings is model the energy during design and frequently check to see how this building might perform. This was done before this building was constructed, and they were showing a HERS rating, which is a way to rate the efficiency of homes, of 51. And when this home was completed, they did a follow-up blower door testing and found that the actual HERS index rating was in the 40s. So this is ideal for an energy positive home, as you get the rating down as low as you can, make it an energy efficient home, and then you add solar panels. The more efficient the home is, the fewer solar panels you need, and that reduces your total project cost. So this is their garage. They have 2 inverters that take the sunshine, which is converted into DC electricity, and convert that into AC electricity that is then used in the house circuitry. They are planning to provide also battery backup power for their house, which is at the end of the line on their rural electric cooperative line. And they also want to have electric vehicles in the future that are charged by their own sunshine. And I think this is where things are headed. This also makes the investment in solar PV on the house pay off faster because you're using it for your fuel. And when fuel is over $3 a gallon, that pays off pretty quickly. This is a project that some of you may be familiar with in Bloomington. This was a demonstration house for E-House, which was the headquarters for the IU Office of Sustainability. This is a 1930s bungalow in a historic district, and there are limitations to what you can do with the historic building. In this case, we were able to get quite a few panels on the roof, and we were just short of energy positive on this building. So with today's technology, this was about 10 years ago, or adding a few more panels, this would also be an energy positive building. And as I'll show you later, there's a geothermal heating and cooling system below that ramp. Secret number 3 is to model the building early in the design process to optimize the natural energy flow and reduce the cost of the project. If you can make, again, an efficient building, you need fewer inputs in terms of mechanical systems and electricity, and then you have a smaller PV system to go with that. So all these things go together. This is a project I worked on with a contractor in Greencastle for his own home, which will start construction next week. And we modeled this building, and this is actually a rendering of what this living room would look like on a winter day. On a summer day, there'd be no sun penetration into that space. It'd be completely shaded on the south facing glass on the right. But in the wintertime, you let in that free heat and free light, and you can model all this very early in the design process. No guesswork required. So I'm teaching my students how to do this kind of modeling. They took on as a class project a zero energy affordable house for the Thrive Alliance in Bartholomew County with United Way of Bartholomew County. And this is an actual site in Columbus that they used to study. And there were 4 different groups, 4 different models. This is one group's model of what a sustainable, affordable, energy positive house might look like for the Thrive Alliance. We hope this actually gets built this summer on the site, with some of the students actually being part of the volunteers. They also learned how to model the energy use in that building, and this is a model of daylighting in that space and showing ample daylighting in the public areas of the building and nice daylighting in the bedroom areas. But they can look at the energy flows throughout the building and tune the building envelope to make it as efficient as possible for the lowest cost possible. Secret number 4 is to go all electric. And this simplifies the process. This removes the combustion byproducts from the air, which includes moisture, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, things that you may not want to breathe. But it also makes it possible for you to produce all of your energy from your own solar panels. And this makes an energy positive building very simple because you know what all the inputs are and all the outputs. And it's a matter of modeling that and balancing that out. The biggest argument I have with people is, oh my God, we can't do without our gas range. So then I have to go into trying to sell induction cooktops, and we get into lots of discussions about that sort of thing. But This is a strategy. It's not absolutely essential, but it's something that I think works very well. And then geothermal heating and cooling is one way to electrically heat and cool a building that's extremely efficient. It's about 80% more efficient than a typical gas furnace air conditioner setup. You can do it in very limited amount of space. On the left is E-House, and they had about 5 feet to work with. And this rig was able to get in that very crowded alley and put in a vertical bore, 2 vertical bores actually for this house. And we did the same for the house I just showed you in Bartholomew County. They had land where they could do horizontal, but in their case, the septic system interfered with the horizontal system, so they went vertical. And what this allows you to do is to use the natural heating and cooling of the earth as a heat sink, so you can borrow from the earth in the summertime for air conditioning, and you can borrow the heat from the earth for heating in the wintertime. And it's almost better than free energy that you're getting from the earth. And there are rebates and tax incentives to make this affordable. Secret number 5 is that PV panels don't have to go on the roof. And you saw that with Christie Library. In fact, many times it's better to put the solar panels somewhere else, especially if your building is in the shade. This is Orthopedic Associates in Newburgh, Indiana. They put their solar panels over their parking lot. This provides shady parking cover for a hot summer day, but also shelters the car in bad weather and monetizes their parking lot. I used to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to monetize their parking space as well. This is one way to do it. And this is typically underutilized space. And you can see that the hospital across the way has plenty of parking as well. So consider using your parking lot if you don't have a room on your rooftop. This may be the first energy positive medical facility in Indiana, and we'll wait to see how their electric bills work out. Secret number 6, this is a secret that many of you may already know, but solar PV is a very low risk investment with immediate and long-term financial returns. And that's the question I get most often is, what is the payback on this investment in solar? For some reason, I don't get that on swimming pools or bourbon rooms or wine cellars. It's only if I talk about solar power, you start asking, what's the payback on that? And one of these days, I'm going to ask somebody when they want to put in a pool, hey, what's the payback on that pool? How many times do you have to avoid going to the public pool to pay for that thing? But for most people, I know there are other reasons why they invest in solar PV. It's not financial only, but there are financial returns. This is a pretty solid investment. Most people I talk to are looking at a 10 to 7 year payback. That ain't bad. And that's getting better all the time as electric rates rise and the cost of PV goes the opposite direction. One thing I do want to point out is that the residential net metering ends in Indiana on June 30th, 2022. So there's going to be a bit of a land rush to take advantage of that very powerful incentive before just less than a year from now. So be aware of that. If you are thinking about this, there is a reason to move quickly. So when we talk about Christie Library, again, they celebrated 10 years of not paying electric bill or a gas bill. They have no gas. The price of the panels has decreased by 90% since that 2009, and their electric grid cost went up 30% in the meantime. So that's an investment that has been more and more attractive to them. They've been able to use that savings to invest in more books and services, and they're using that money to buy mission, not kilowatts. So this is a way to convert capital to operations and save on your operations costs. In this case, they were able to take advantage of federal grant money to do that. So this is a way to leverage credits, rebates, tax incentives to reduce your operating costs. And this is a picture that just keeps getting better all the time. So this lovely group, my grandgirls, we've since added a grandson. we just had a cousin camp with them, and another reminder of why I do this personally. And you know, someday they're going to ask me, Grandpa, what are you doing to make sure that we have a livable planet? And that's why I do this work, and that's why my firm concentrates on energy positive buildings. And I think there is an opportunity here that this is secret number 7. Buildings account for 40% of carbon emissions, but the opportunity is that those emissions are also on track to reach 0 by 2040. If we just keep doing what we're doing and continue to get better at making buildings more efficient, we will hit that Paris goal of 0 emissions by 2040. And buildings have been using less and less energy, as you can see from the 27% reduction from 2005. Even though we're adding more buildings, we're going to have to continue to add more buildings as our population increases and people try to catch up with us. But the good news is we've figured this out. We know how to do this now, and we have this opportunity to reduce emissions from buildings significantly. But my argument is we already know how to do this. As Buckminster Fuller used to say, if it's already being done, it must be possible. This is a question that Charlotte said we must ask the question, and the question I would ask is, why aren't we doing this now? We know how to do this. Let's just do it now. And hitting 0 by 2040 is great, but let's see if we can beat that. So if you're interested in this topic, there are lots of good resources out there. There's the 2030 Challenge, which teaches architects how to do this. And the top 20 architecture firms in the world have signed on to this challenge to create zero energy buildings by 2030. And zero energy buildings, zero energy ready homes, these are federal government resources that are excellent. The New Buildings Institute is a nonprofit that has a lot of great resources. And then the Department of Energy's Zero Energy Ready Home program is another great resource. But I will stop there and let you ask tough questions. Thank you for your attention. Appreciate it.
Bill, thank you so much. We do have time for questions. Who's got a question?
I have one. I've been under the impression that we've in Indiana have legislative opposition to energy efficiency. Perhaps why are we discontinuing tax incentives, etc.?
That is a wonderful question, and not sure I have the answer for that, but I think it would be in the best interest of the state to encourage renewable energy. It reminds me of Kodak. They had a researcher who invented a very early form of digital photography, and he presented that to the leadership of Kodak, and they said, no, I think we'll just keep on this making film. That's our business. The future is not bright for non-renewable energy forms of production of electricity. We already know that renewable energy is a cheaper form of utility scale energy in Indiana. NIPSCO, for example, has proven that with a major study. So I can't answer why the legislature thinks that they should discourage renewable energy, but I think it's an opportunity for Indiana businesses, for the state of Indiana, for it's one of the fastest growing areas of employment for people. Hundreds of thousands of jobs are being created by renewable energy and wind farms and solar installs and making buildings more efficient. So we may be missing an opportunity here in Indiana if we don't turn around and pivot and find ways to encourage investment in renewable energy.
Related to that, can you explain the end of net metering? I know that was a legislative issue that I thought was already in place. So I'm glad to hear there's still a little time.
Well, it is in place, and net metering is scheduled to expire June 2022, end of June 2022. Now, if you're on rural electric, net metering is not something that is part of the discussion anyway. You don't have net metering on a rural electric system like I have, but you know, net metering makes your payback faster because you get paid back at a nearly retail rate instead of a wholesale rate. Without net metering, you are getting paid back for your excess energy at the wholesale rate. So that's the difference with net metering versus no net metering. Again, I can't explain why the legislature made that decision, but I think that with net metering, you have more distributed energy. Distributed energy is reliable in a way that centralized energy is not. And there's about 60% of the energy that's used to generate centralized energy is lost in transmission, where, you know, if you're making your own energy locally, you're not losing that energy in transmission, and your excess is going to your neighbors. So there's a lot of renewable energy flowing around Bloomington, neighbor to neighbor, that is clean and less wasteful than what you'd get from central generation.
There are a number of churches in the area, and one synagogue that have gone to solar energy. Perhaps the most notable would be the St. John's Catholic Church in Ellisville, and there are some really great supporters of this out of their own theological and values. Do you have any suggestions as to how more churches and religious groups could get involved in this kind of transformation that you are advocating?
Well, I think that's a great point, Tim. I think that's how you might explain that map I showed you of all the solar installations around Bloomington, is that there was a very strong movement in the local churches. The local churches brought in experts, and they came up with the idea of purchasing in bulk for members of the churches, and church members talked to other church members, and pretty soon you developed a critical mass of people that had an interest and expertise. There were new companies that were able to start up in Bloomington to service that need. So I think the churches get a huge amount of credit for the popularity of solar PV in Bloomington. They started that ball rolling. And it's all about protecting creation. And
Bill, I'm curious.
I have a
How
simple,
well is your employer doing? That is Indiana University, and what could it do better?
well, the employer, I'm marginally employed by IU now as an adjunct faculty, but as the director of sustainability, we tried to do a lot of solar projects. We were successful in a few small projects, but I think there's a great opportunity there for IU. And again, you think about donors, you know, one of the things I encourage the university to do is to ask donors to not just donate the building, but also donate the renewable energy. That would be the gift that keeps on giving. It would be an amazing tax opportunity for them to write off a larger tax write-off because of the incentives that are available for renewable energy. But you would also be donating the operating costs for the building for the next 25 to 30 years. So it may not fit on the building, but maybe it fits in the parking lot. At Michigan State, they have 17 megawatts of solar power over their parking lots. And these are very popular during football games because you can have a great tailgating party under the shelter of the solar panels. So I wouldn't be too surprised if we don't see that happen on the parking lot around the athletics facility at some point in the future.
okay, I have a question.
Charlotte.
I have a really easy question, and then I have a hard one. Question is, where is Christie?
Spencer County, Indiana.
The south?
Yes, where Abraham Lincoln grew up.
Okay, yeah. All right, down, what is Tell City in Spencer County?
Next door in Perry County. I grew
Okay.
up in Spencer County, so
Okay.
it was near and dear to my heart to work with Chris.
Wonderful. We should have a pilgrimage to that place.
They'd enjoy that.
But the fact of the matter, what can we do to encourage this? Maybe does the foundation now make this part of their pitch when they go out to borrow, get the big bucks for the buildings?
Well, as an alumni of the university, I'd like to start an alumni fund, maybe call it Hoosier Power,
Yeah,
Hoosier Power and Light, perhaps, to see if other alumni might want to pool their resources and see if we could donate money to purchase renewable energy for IU. I'm sure the foundation would be interested in that.
yeah, it would seem to me, this is a really good sell, what you just gave us. A really wonderful presentation. And I have no further questions except to how to do it. How do we get people moving?
Appreciate that.
Hank, you get the last question.
Okay, thank you, Sally. Bill, in thinking of the economics, people always talk about payback. Is there economics in home value? Does it raise your home value? Does it lower it? Is it neutral? What information might you have on that?
Oh, I do have another question.
Well, there may be a realtor in this group, but the information I've seen shows that this does increase your resale value. And there is also an incentive where if you invest in solar PV, that there's a way you can get that off of your property tax. So there's a property tax incentive to get the benefit of improving your property, but not paying the extra taxes on that investment.
Bill, thank you so much. Really terrific and inspiring. Charlotte, if you can wait until right after the meeting, I'm about to ask Bill if you can stay a few minutes late to answer any more questions.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you. So in honor of your presentation today, we'll be making a donation to Pantry 279 in Ellisville.
Excellent.
Next week, both in person and on Zoom, our speaker will be our own Marilyn Wood, director of the Monroe County Public Library. Marilyn is going to be speaking about the new Southwest Branch Library. So bring your mask and I'll see you there. Natalie, let's close the meeting by showing the four-way test graphic and reciting as follows. Of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair
to all concerned?
Third,
goodwill,
friendships. Fourth, will it be
beneficial to all
concerned? And
fifth,
fun.
fun. Ding-a-ding-a-ding. Thanks, everybody. It's great to see you on Zoom.